she walked into a room, and empires trembled. Two of the most powerful men in history fell to their knees before her, not because of an army, not because of wealth, but because of something far more dangerous, her mind. But here's what they don't want you to know. That mind. It was connected to a weapon so powerful, so perfectly calibrated, that Rome itself spent 2 centuries trying to erase it from history. They called her a seductress, a witch, a whore. They were terrified to call her what she really was, a genius. I'm talking about Cleopatra VII, the last pharaoh of Egypt, and everything you think you know about her. It's a lie, see? Hollywood sold you a fantasy. History books gave you half-truths. But today, I'm going to show you the real Cleopatra. The woman who understood something that still makes powerful people uncomfortable. Today, that intelligence and sexuality aren't opposites. They're the deadliest combination on earth. By the end of this video, you'll understand how one woman brought the Roman Republic to its knees, turned generals into puppets, and changed the course of Western civilization forever. This is the story they didn't want you to hear. The story of how Cleopatra weaponized everything, including herself. Let's begin. Close your eyes for a second and picture Cleopatra. I bet you're seeing Elizabeth Taylor, right? Draped in gold, heavily made up, batting her eyelashes at some Roman general. The ultimate femme fatale, the most beautiful woman who ever lived. Yeah, That's exactly what they wanted you to see. Here's the truth bomb that's going to shatter everything. Cleopatra probably wasn't even that beautiful. Wait, what? Ancient historians, even the ones who hated her, barely mentioned her looks. Plutarch, who wrote about her decades after her death, said her beauty was not altogether incomparable. That's ancient Roman, for she was. Fine, I guess. Roman coins from her era. They show a woman with a prominent nose, a strong jaw, and a masculine profile. Not exactly Hollywood material. So how did this average-looking woman seduce the 2 most powerful men on the planet? Because she understood something that most people still don't get. Beauty is what you see, sexuality is what you feel, and intelligence, that's what makes you obsessed. Cleopatra spoke 9 languages. Let that sink in. 9. In an era when most rulers couldn't even read, she was conversing with scholars in Greek, Egyptian, Hebrew, Aramaic, Ethiopian, Median, Parthian, Arabic, and Latin. He studied mathematics, philosophy, astronomy, and medicine at the legendary Library of Alexandria. She debated with the greatest minds of the ancient world. But here's where it gets interesting. She knew that being smart wasn't enough. In a world run by men, intellectual women were seen as threats, not treasures. So she did something revolutionary. She weaponized her sexuality, not by being the most beautiful, but by understanding male psychology better than the men themselves. Think about it. What's more intoxicating? A beautiful woman who says nothing, or an intelligent woman who makes you feel like the most powerful man alive, while she pulls your strings? Cleopatra didn't just seduce men with her body. She seduced them with the idea of her. She created an aura, a mystique, a fantasy that was impossible to resist because it fed their egos while she controlled their decisions. The movies show you a woman draped on a couch, waiting to be desired. The reality, she was a master manipulator who studied her targets, identified their weaknesses, and exploited them with surgical precision. And her first victim, the most powerful man in the world, Julius Caesar. Rome 48 BC. Julius Caesar, conqueror of Gaul, the man who made kings tremble, arrives in Alexandria chasing his enemy Pompey. He's 52 years old, battle-hardened, politically ruthless. He's seen everything, or so he thought. Meanwhile, Cleopatra has a problem. She's been kicked off the Egyptian throne by her own brother, Ptolemy XIII. She's 21 years old, exiled, and desperate. She needs Rome's help. But how do you get a meeting with the most powerful man alive when you're a nobody? You don't ask for a meeting. You create a moment he'll never forget, the legend says. She had herself rolled up in a carpet and smuggled into Caesar's quarters. When the carpet was unrolled at his feet, out stepped Cleopatra. Now, historians debate whether this actually happened, but here's what matters. It's exactly the kind of theatrical, bold, unforgettable entrance that Cleopatra would orchestrate. She understood something crucial. Powerful men meet hundreds of people. You have one chance to be memorable, but the carpet, That was just the opening act. What happened in those chambers changed history. Caesar was married. He was in the middle of a civil war. He had absolutely no reason to get involved in Egypt's messy family drama, and yet, within days, he was not just supporting Cleopatra. He was going to war for her, against a brother, against his own political interests. Why? Because Cleopatra gave him something more addictive than power. She gave him validation. Think about it. Caesar was surrounded by senators who feared him, soldiers who obeyed him, and politicians who used him. Everyone wanted something from him. Cleopatra made him feel seen. She spoke to him in Latin, his own language, which almost no Egyptian royal bothered to learn. She discussed military strategy, not as a student, but as an equal. She made him laugh. She challenged him intellectually. And yes, she took him to bed. But here's what the history books miss. That wasn't seduction. It was strategy. Cleopatra understood that intimacy creates vulnerability. In those private moments, when a man's guard is down, when he feels powerful and desired, that's when you plant the seeds. She studied Caesar. She learned what he valued: legacy, glory, divine status. She fed those desires. She probably mentioned, casually, that Egyptian pharaohs were considered living gods. That Caesar could be more than just a Roman general. He could be a god-king. 3 months later, Cleopatra was pregnant with Caesarian little Caesar. That pregnancy was a masterstroke. It created a potential heir to both empires. Caesar stayed in Egypt for nearly a year, while Rome descended into chaos, while his enemies plotted. He stayed with Cleopatra on a pleasure cruise down the Nile. Historians still can't explain why the most ambitious man in Rome abandoned everything for months. I'll tell you why. Because Cleopatra had done something no one else could. She made Julius Caesar need her, not want, need. She controlled the narrative of their relationship. She gave him just enough to keep him obsessed, but never so much that he felt in control. She created a dynamic where he was chasing her validation, not the other way around. When Caesar finally returned to Rome, he did something unprecedented. He brought Cleopatra with him. He installed her in his villa. He put up a golden statue of her in the Temple of Venus. Rome was scandalized. He had a wife. He was flaunting his foreign mistress in front of the entire Senate. He was acting like a king, not a consul. And that scandal, that's what got him killed. March 15th, 44 BC. The Ides of March. Caesar is assassinated by his own senators. Did Cleopatra know it was coming? Some historians think she fled Rome just days before the murder. Coincidence? Or calculation? Here's what we know. Caesar's death didn't destroy Cleopatra. She went back to Egypt, consolidated her power, secured her throne, and started building Egypt's economy into a powerhouse. She had used Rome's most powerful man to reclaim her kingdom, and when he was no longer useful, she survived his fall. But Julius Caesar was just practice. Her real target was coming, and this time, she wouldn't just seduce her man, she would destroy an empire. 41 BC, Tarsus, in modern-day Turkey. Mark Antony, Caesar's right-hand man. Now one of Rome's 3 rulers, summons Cleopatra to explain Egypt's position during Rome's civil war. He expects her to arrive, afraid, submissive, ready to beg for mercy. She arrives like a goddess. A massive golden barge appears on the river. The sails are purple, the color of royalty. The oars are silver. The boat is covered in flowers, and the air is thick with the scent of perfumes, so expensive that the aroma reaches the shore before the boat does. On a golden throne, dressed as the goddess Aphrodite herself, sits Cleopatra. She's surrounded by servants dressed as cupids, fanning her with peacock feathers. And Antony, he's on the shore, in his military camp, looking like just another soldier. She didn't come to him. She made him come to her. This wasn't just an entrance. It was psychological warfare. Antony thought he was summoning a subject. Instead, he got a production designed to blow his mind and destroy his ego. And it worked. Cleopatra invited Antony to dine with her. What happened over those 4 days? And nights would change history forever. First night, she overwhelmed him with luxury. The feast was legendary. Gold plates, exotic foods, entertainment that Rome had never seen. She made him feel like he was in paradise. Second night, she challenged him intellectually. She debated philosophy, military strategy, politics. She made him think. Third night, she made him laugh. She matched him drink for drink. She was wild, unpredictable, fun, everything his Roman life, Fourth night. She took him to bed, and just like Caesar before him, Mark Antony was gone. But here's the difference. Caesar was strategic. He knew he was playing politics. Antony fell hard. Within months, he had abandoned his duties in Rome. He gave Cleopatra massive territories: Cyprus, Crete, parts of Syria. He declared her son Caesarion the rightful heir to Caesar's legacy, directly threatening Rome's stability. He left his Roman wife, Octavia, who happened to be the sister of Octavian, Rome's other ruler, and married Cleopatra in an Egyptian ceremony. Rome was furious. The Senate called her a witch, a foreign whore who had corrupted their general. Octavian launched a propaganda war, calling Cleopatra every name in the book. But here's the truth they couldn't admit. Antony didn't leave Rome because Cleopatra bewitched him. He left because she gave him something Rome never could: freedom in Rome. Antony was always second to Caesar, second to Octavian, second to the Senate's expectations. With Cleopatra, he could be a god king. He could rule the East. He could build his own empire, free from Rome's suffocating traditions. Did Cleopatra love Antony? Maybe, probably more than she loved Caesar. They had 3 children together. She stood by him when Rome turned against him. But love and strategy aren't mutually exclusive. She loved him, and she used him. The relationship that started on a golden barge would end in blood and fire. Octavian declared war, not on Antony and Cleopatra. He knew the Roman people wouldn't support a civil war against their own general, but they would support a war against a foreign queen. The Battle of Actium, 31 BC. Antony's fleet faced Octavian's navy. Cleopatra commanded her own squadron. They were outnumbered but not outmatched. And then Cleopatra's ships turned and fled. Antony, seeing her leave, abandoned his fleet and followed her. Rome won the battle without fighting. Antony's men surrendered en masse. The war was over. But why did Cleopatra flee? Was it cowardice? Strategized? Did she betray Antony to save herself? Or did she make a calculated decision that the battle was lost, and survival was the only option? We'll never know. What we do know is that Octavian pursued them back to Egypt. The end was coming. Alexandria, 30 BC. Octavian's armies surrounded the city. Antony, broken and betrayed, heard a rumor that Cleopatra was dead. In despair, he stabbed himself with his own sword. He didn't die immediately. He lingered, bleeding out, until he was brought to Cleopatra, who was very much alive, barricaded in her mausoleum. She held him as he died. Their last conversation is lost to history. But imagine it, the man who gave up everything for her, dying in her arms, while the empire he abandoned came to tear them apart. Cleopatra was captured by Octavian. He wanted to parade her through Rome in chains, a symbol of his victory. She would rather die. The legend says she let an venomous snake bite her. The reality, we don't know. Maybe it was poison. Maybe it was a snake. Maybe she had a backup plan all along. What matters is this: Cleopatra chose her own death. She controlled her exit from the world the same way she controlled her entrance into Caesar's chambers, on her own terms. Octavian killed Caesarion, eliminating Cleopatra's heir. He killed Antony's older son, but he spared Cleopatra's 3 children with Antony, raising them in Rome. Why? Because he had one. The threat was over. Or was it? Let's talk about what Cleopatra actually destroyed, not Egypt. Egypt fell because Rome was too powerful, not Antony. He destroyed himself. What Cleopatra destroyed was something far bigger: the idea that women couldn't use everything as power. Think about this. In the ancient world, women had 3 options: be married off, be silent, or be killed. Cleopatra said no. She ruled one of the richest kingdoms on earth. She negotiated with world leaders as equals. She commanded armies, controlled trade routes, and made decisions that affected millions. But she also used her femininity, her sexuality, her ability to seduce and manipulate without apology. And that's what terrified Rome. Because if women could be both intelligent and sexual, both strategic and seductive, then the entire power structure collapses. Rome spent 200 years rewriting her story. They called her a seductress because they couldn't admit she was smarter than their generals. They called her a witch because they couldn't explain how she controlled 2 of Rome's greatest men. They called her a whore because they couldn't accept that a woman could weaponize sexuality without shame. Let me ask you something. Julius Caesar had hundreds of affairs. He was literally nicknamed every woman's husband and every man's wife. But we call him a conqueror, a leader, a legend. Cleopatra had major relationships in her life. Both were strategic. Both were with men who could secure her kingdom's future. But she's the whore. See the double standard? Here's what Cleopatra's real weapons were. First, intelligence. She was more educated than almost any ruler of her time. She ran Egypt's economy, turning it into a powerhouse that rivaled Rome itself. Second, languages. Speaking 9 languages meant she could negotiate directly with leaders across the known world. No translators, no misunderstandings, pure, direct power. Third, psychological warfare. She studied her targets. Caesar wanted divine status. She made him feel like a god. Antony wanted freedom. She gave him an empire in the east. Fourth, economic manipulation. Egypt controlled the grain supply for much of the Mediterranean. She had leverage that went beyond armies. Fifth, image control. She crafted her own legend, the Golden Barge entrance. That wasn't spontaneous. It was a planned performance designed to achieve a specific psychological effect. And sixth, the one they still can't forgive her for, sexual intelligence, not beauty. Not seduction in a traditional sense, sexual intelligence, the understanding that intimacy creates vulnerability, that desire can be manufactured and controlled, that powerful men who are used to dominating everyone around them become absolutely addicted to a woman who makes them feel powerful while she quietly controls the game. Cleopatra knew that sex wasn't about bodies. It was about minds. She didn't just sleep with Caesar and Antony. She got inside their heads. She understood their fears, their ambitions, their weaknesses, and then she exploited them with precision. Rome couldn't handle this. The idea that a woman could be sexually active and politically brilliant, that she could use her body as one tool among many, without shame, without apology. It threatened everything. So they did what powerful structures always do when they can't defeat someone. They tried to destroy her reputation. But here's the thing about Cleopatra's legacy. They lost. 2,000 years later, we're still talking about her. Shakespeare wrote plays about her. Countless movies have been made. Her name is synonymous with power, intelligence, and yes, sexuality. Meanwhile, who remembers Octavian? Oh right, he changed his name to Augustus and became Rome's first emperor. But even he couldn't escape Cleopatra's shadow, because she proved something that still makes people uncomfortable. A woman who owns all of her power, intellectual, political, economic, and sexual, is unstoppable. So let's talk about what Cleopatra's story actually means, because this isn't just ancient history. This is about now. How many times have you seen a powerful woman dismissed as a seductress? How many female leaders have been judged by their appearance, their relationships, their sexuality, instead of their actual accomplishments? How many times have we seen the same playbook Rome used against Cleopatra? She ruled Egypt for 21 years. She stabilized an economy. She negotiated with multiple empires. She commanded armies, made strategic alliances, and kept Egypt independent longer than anyone thought possible. But what do we remember? Her relationships with men. That's not an accident. That's deliberate erasure. Here's the shocking truth that history books won't tell you. Cleopatra won, not militarily. Rome conquered Egypt after her death, but in every way that matters, she won. She lived on her terms. She made her own choices. She controlled her own narrative literally by commissioning histories and monuments that told her version of events. She used every tool available to her in a world designed to crush women. And she didn't just survive, she thrived. When Rome finally defeated her, they had to use the full might of the Roman Empire, not against Egypt, against one woman. Think about that. Caesar. Who conquered Gaul? Antony, who was 1/3 of the Roman triumvirate. Octavian, who became Emperor Augustus. 3 of Rome's greatest leaders, and two of them fell completely under her control. The third one had to wage a propaganda war for years just to turn public opinion against her. That's not weakness. That's terrifying power. Modern archaeology keeps proving that. Cleopatra was far more accomplished than history gave her credit for. Recent discoveries show she personally oversaw mining operations, agricultural reforms, and trade negotiations. She was hands-on in Egypt's administration. She published works on medicine and cosmetics. She conducted scientific experiments. She was a scholar, not just a queen, but for 2 millennia. All of that was buried under the seductress narrative, because admitting that a woman could be sexually powerful and intellectually superior was too dangerous. Here's what I want you to understand. Cleopatra didn't destroy empires with her mind despite her sexuality. She destroyed empires with her mind because she integrated her sexuality into a strategy, without shame or apology. She refused to play by rules designed to limit her. She used everything: her intelligence, her education, her political savvy, her economic acumen, and yes, her understanding of how to make powerful men vulnerable. That's not manipulation. That's genius. And the final proof that she won. We're watching this video 2,000 years after her death. Cleopatra is more famous than almost any other woman in history. Her name evokes power, mystery, intelligence, and sexuality in equal measure. She became immortal, while Rome fell. While empires crumbled, while dynasties ended, Cleopatra's legend grew stronger. They killed the woman, but they couldn't kill what she represented. The idea that a woman can be all of it: smart and sexy, strategic and passionate, powerful and feminine. They tried to erase her for centuries, and they failed. That's the ultimate power move. So here's what we learned today. Cleopatra VII, the last Pharaoh of Egypt, wasn't the Hollywood seductress we've been sold. She was a polyglot genius who spoke 9 languages, a scholar who studied at the Library of Alexandria, an economist who stabilized and grew Egypt's wealth, a military strategist who commanded fleets, a diplomat who negotiated with multiple empires, and yes, she was a woman who understood that sexuality, when combined with intelligence, becomes the most powerful weapon in human psychology. She seduced Julius Caesar, not with beauty, but with the intoxicating combination of intellectual validation and strategic intimacy. She destroyed Mark Antony, not with witchcraft, but by offering him something Rome never could: the feeling of being truly powerful, truly free, truly seen. And she scared Rome so badly that they spent 2 centuries trying to rewrite her as nothing more than a seductress. But here's the truth they couldn't bury. Cleopatra played a game designed for men, in a world that wanted women silent, using weapons that society called shameful, and she nearly won. She didn't destroy empires with an army. She destroyed empires by refusing to be anything less than all of who she was. So the next time someone tries to reduce a powerful woman to her sexuality, remember Cleopatra. The next time someone suggests that intelligence and sensuality can't coexist, remember Cleopatra. The next time someone implies that using all your tools makes you manipulative, remember Cleopatra. Because 2009 years ago, one woman proved that the deadliest combination on earth isn't weapons or armies. It's a brilliant mind that refuses to apologize for being powerful in every way. Cleopatra didn't destroy empires with her mind. She destroyed the idea of empire, idea that power belongs only to men, that women must choose between intelligence and sexuality, that feminine weapons are somehow less legitimate than masculine ones. And that idea, it's still being destroyed today, by women who refuse to be limited, who use everything they have, who own their power without apology. Cleopatra would be proud. If this video changed how you see Cleopatra or women in power, hit that like button. Subscribe for more hidden histories that challenge everything you thought you knew. And comment below, who should we expose next? What other historical figure has been completely misunderstood? Because if there's one thing Cleopatra taught us, it's this: the stories we're told, they're usually written by the people who were scared of the truth. Let's find the truth together. I'll see you in the next one.